Hey everybody, it's Austin Ward for Lettermen Row, back with another BuckIQ, talking some hoops with Terence Dials, former Ohio State star, professional basketball star, big man extraordinaire, and he knows that with Kaleb Wesson coming back here for Ohio State, that's a big deal because this one's coming up against Indiana in the first round of the Big Ten tournament. That could be a play-in game to the NCAA tournament.
I think it is a play-in game, obviously. I think we have to play it as that, don't win, we're playing the NIT, and, I think that's pressure that a lot of players like, especially when I played. I like to feel that pressure. It makes me play better, and hopefully the other guys on the squad feels the same way.
Is that a conversation then for these Buckeyes? When you go into the locker room there in Chicago, you're in a tournament already. It's March, and it's a Big Ten championship game, but there's all these other implications now with just that one game against Indiana. How will that kind of conversation play out for the team?
Well, you got to remember, a lot of these guys played in the NCAA tournament last year. Some of these guys were successful last year, so they have that to hang their hat on. They have that part of them. But you got to get some of these young guys involved, and their eyes are gonna be big when they go into this stadium and they see, all the banners of, the past greats, and it's gonna be daunting. But I think, knowing that they beat Indiana before gives them that confidence that they can get it done again.
Obviously, Ohio State had Kaleb Wesson for that game against Indiana in Bloomington. They've not had him for the last 3 games, and it's been a little bit of a struggle. 3 straight losses. Nearly pulled one out without him against Wisconsin. But the suspension is over. He's back, and that's got to be a big deal. The confidence that you have, Kaleb Wesson, confidence you beat him before. I wonder just how this the puzzle pieces fit together now that you have Wesson back.
I think, for one, Wesson's going to come out, with a vengeance, obviously, knowing that he let his team down these past 3 games. He's going to try to do everything in his power to right that wrong. And then his guys are going to rally around him. Kaleb is a good guy. They like him, good friends with everybody on the team. So I think it'll be a good matchup for Ohio State to get out there and get a win.
Kaleb Wesson was big in that win over Indiana the first time. This matchup could not be any more important when you talk about the NCAA tournament, and Kaleb Wesson will be back for it. Why is that important? Terence is going to break it down right now on BuckIQ. So let's roll the tape. All right, Terence, when you look at this matchup, you have Kaleb Wesson back now for Ohio State, Indiana. It worked in the first game. He didn't have the biggest statistical game of his season, but it's a win on the road. Assembly Hall is a tough place to play, and he played a big role in that.
Yeah, absolutely. But what he brings most is a presence, which they haven't had in the last 3 games.
Right.
Someone who can throw the ball in and get you a bucket.
This is just a simple, great post move, good finish. And as you said, this isn't something that you can really ask Jaden Ledee or Kyle Young to really do right now. He's the only one on this team that can.
He definitely is the only one, but what his presence does is opens up shots for the outside shooters. And, we're not the best outside shooting team, but when we're open, we should be able to make those shots.
This is another thing that we've talked about him a little on the defensive end. Chris Holtman has talked about him a lot more recently. He does change. You don't think about him as a great athletic kind of shot blocker, but he changes things, he gets up space, and he plays really good on that end of the floor as well.
Well, there's 2 types of big men. There's those space eaters, and then there's those athletic guys who jump over the rim. We obviously know Kaleb is not an athletic over-the-rim type guy, but he's a smart defender when he wants to be. Obviously, he's had some foul trouble. But a lot of those came on the offensive end too. So,
is there something about this Indiana team? They just don't look like the most physically imposing front line. You don't think of some other Indiana teams that they've had historically. Is this a good matchup for Kaleb? Is this something that you would feel pretty – if you were going out there, would you feel pretty good about matching up with this lineup?
I definitely would. They don't have the depth either. I looked at the roster. They don't have the depth at the front court. If someone goes out, they're more of a smaller team. I think the allure of this team is obviously the freshman that they have that is the ballyhoo guy on this team. So
it's another example, too, there of Kaleb's passing that you've pointed that out a number of times. It's not just that he can get out of double teams or that he's confident with the ball, but he can also dribble to create some space, and he knocks down enough jumpers that you have to be honest with him.
You got to be honest, but he gets the ball in the spots where the score's needed. Obviously, he got CJ an open bucket by just reading the double team, and he's been doing a great job of that pretty much all season.
How can Indiana adjust to something like that? Is there a way that you think? Let's just say the other side of this. We're talking about Ohio State trying to go out and win this game for the second time against Indiana. How will they try to adjust to defending Kaleb?
Well, you want to get Kaleb on his weak hand, which is going to be the left. Try to force him that way into the double team, but not bring the double until he puts the ball on the floor. You see it came already quick, but you don't want it until he puts the ball on the floor. the first thing Kaleb does is already look for the double team. So he's waiting for you to come so he can make that pass. If I was a coach, I would wait for him to put the ball on the floor first and then live with some of the jump shots of CJ and Luther Muhammad.
The guy's missed 3 games in a row now, and we've always talked about his conditioning.
Absolutely.
How much concern is there for you going into not just it's Thursday, but you might have to play a couple days in a row if you get past that first one?
It's a big concern, especially since he was already had conditioning issues. And being out for 2 weeks, as a basketball player, I can tell you if you're out 3 days, you're already winded that first game, seriously. So it's a big concern, but I think him being around the team and traveling with them, I think that helped because I'm sure, almost positive, the coaches had him on the treadmill in the hotel, running some sprints in the gym when they're at shooting around. The suspension wasn't just a vacation for him. I can already bet.
Definitely wasn't a vacation for the rest of the Buckeyes. They've lost all 3 of those games without him. Made a good run on Sunday against Wisconsin, but came up short. And that's putting it all on the line on Thursday. So Lettermen Row will be there in the building in Chicago for that huge matchup with Indiana. Terence will be breaking everything down when we get back, heading towards Selection Sunday and whatever might come after that on BuckIQ. So for TD, I'm Austin Ward. We'll see you next time on Lettermen Row BuckIQ.